Sunday school. And I just want to say that it is so good again to see everybody that is here today. Amen. And it was great for everyone that turned out bowling. It was a great time of fun, fellowship there at bowling. And I will tell you, I found the secret to beating Dale. I finally found the secret. Now, yeah, that's right. But no. I played 3 games with him, and every time we try to change up the tactics and everything. And I will say he did beat me all those 3 games and everybody else there. But I think I finally found it, though. The trick is to let him play 6 games first, and then come in, and then have him close his eyes when he throws the ball. I think that is the only way that I will finally be able to ever beat him. But it was a great time. We had lots of fun, and God is good. God loves when we get together and have a good time. 1 Samuel 17, it says this, "And Saul and the men of Israel were gathered together and pitched by the valley of Elah and set the battle in array against the Philistines." Verse 3, "And the Philistines stood on a mountain." Everybody said mountain. Mountain. "On the one side, and Israel stood on a mountain." Everybody say mountain. Mountain. "On the other side, and there was a valley between them." Amen. As a kid, I can remember playing a game. It was a fun game. It was a competitive game, but it was called King of the Mountain. And the goal of this game was to get to the top. It didn't matter what you had to do. You could kick, you could scream, you could push, you could yell, whatever it is. But the goal was to get to the top of whatever was the mountain. In this case, up here would be the mountain, and I would be shoving people off. It'd be on a bed, a pile of clothes. It could be wherever it is, on top of the playground. But the goal was to get to the top. And you had your mind made up that it didn't matter what you had to do. You were going to get to the top of the mountain, and you were going to try your best to stay on the top of the mountain, keeping everybody back. Amen. So by the help of the Lord, I'm going to be teaching from this thought. It's time to climb your mountain. Amen. It's time to climb your mountain. You may be seated in Jesus' name. As I mentioned earlier, many have been unable to make it just due to sicknesses and such that they are facing, including my own boy is not feeling good as well, and Carter's got the croup, and Sarah's there taking care of them. But we are live, so for any of those who are unable to make it, we are on Facebook Live so that they are able to still participate in worship and praise and still to show up. So that is good. So as 2019 is wrapping up, and we know this is our last Sunday service of 2019. It is hard to believe because I can remember standing up here preaching the last service, teaching the last service of 2018, titled "Playtime is Over." And so now here we are, the very last service of 2019, and it is crazy at how fast time is flying by. But I don't know where you are and where you stand at this particular moment in 2019. You may be on the top of your mountain right now, and everything is good. Everything is feeling great, and you feel you finally made it through everything that you have faced of 2019. You're now at the top of your mountain. You may be at the very bottom of the valley, where you've just gone through one thing after another thing after another thing. And again, I don't know where it is that you are within that walk with God, but one thing that I can tell you with a certain level of certainty, one thing that I can let you know with a certain level of assurity, is that there is going to be a mountain that you are going to face in 2020. And to some, it may seem like a little hill. To others, it may seem like Mount Everest or something just absolutely way up there. But there's one thing that I can tell you, and that is there is going to be a mountain that you are going to face in 2020. I don't say that to discourage you, but I say that to remind you and to encourage you. Don't stop at the bottom of the mountain. Don't get discouraged when you see an obstacle. Don't come to it and look and it just looks so overwhelming, too big, too high. God has not brought you to the base of the mountain to simply leave you there and say, now the rest is on you. I've gotten you here to the bottom of the mountain, but now you've got to climb it on your own, and I'll see you at the top. No, but instead he is saying, come to the top, because there is something that I want to show you. There is something that I want to tell you. Let's go to the top, because there is something that I'm going to reveal to you. Somebody said amen. 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 I promise not to be long today at all, but when Moses saw the burning bush, it was on Mount Horeb. It was on a mountain when he was there and encountered this burning bush. It was there where God had begun to talk to him, and his presence was there. And he said, Moses, take off your shoes, for you are standing on holy ground. It was on this mountain that Moses was there asking, who shall I say send me? And God begins to reveal himself to him and tell him that I am. And it was on this mountaintop, Mount Horeb, that Moses was there having this encounter with God, where God began to tell him, Moses, I've got a plan for your life. Moses, I want you to know that you are going to be going to Pharaoh. You're going to be going back to Egypt, and you're going to be telling him to let my people go. Amen. It was on a mountain right there on Mount Moriah that Abraham was going to sacrifice his son Isaac. He could have stopped at the base and said, you know what, God, I just think that you are asking too much. I just don't know if I can go all the way through with what it is you have asked me to sacrifice Isaac. But instead, Abraham had made up his mind that no matter what, he was going to the top of the mountain. And he got to the top of the mountain. It was here where God had stepped in and began to talk to him, Abraham, because of your obedience, because of your faithfulness, because of you listening to my voice and coming to the top of this mountain and being willing to go through with the ultimate sacrifice of your son. I want you to know, Abraham, that I'm going to bless you. I'm not going to just bless you, but I'm going to bless your seed. Greater than the amount of sand on the seashore, greater than the amount of stars that this galaxy can contain, I am going to bless you. When Elijah went to the top of Mount Carmel, God had begun to step in and demonstrate his power. It was on top of the mountain of Mount Carmel that there was 450 prophets of Baal that were there. And Elijah said, how about this? Whichever God can send down fire from heaven, let him be the God that we serve. And these 450 prophets of Baal were there, and they did everything they could. They even started cutting themselves. They made sure that everything was lined up, and they tried doing all of these things. They danced and all day and all night, and Elijah kind of even made fun of them and said, maybe you need to be a little bit louder. Maybe your God Baal can't even hear you. Maybe you should scream a little bit louder. Maybe that's what it is. And as they continued to do that, all of the people of Israel, all of the children of Israel, the nation of Israel, were there watching to see which one was the true God. And so we see what happened. Elijah goes up, he even has them pour barrels and buckets of water all over the sacrifice, and then he begins to call out from heaven, and God begins to step in and demonstrate his power, consuming the sacrifice. We then see the nation of Israel, the children of Israel, turned and killed all of those 450 prophets of Baal. When Moses got the 10 Commandments, it was there on top of Mount Sinai that he went, and God began to talk to him and say, I'm going to make a covenant with my people. I want you to tell them that if they are obedient to this, that they will have long life, that they will be blessed, and all of these other things on top of the mountain. I just want to encourage somebody today as you're getting ready to face a mountain, whatever it is that you're going to go through. I can't tell you if it's going to be an easy mountain or if it's going to be a tough mountain, but whatever it is, don't be scared of it, but to know that on top of that mountain there is revelation. On top of that mountain there is blessing. On top of that mountain there is provision. On top of that mountain there is anointing. On top of that mountain there is peace that surpasses all understanding. Don't stop at the base of the mountain, but continue even in 2020 as we're now at the horizon of a brand new decade, not just another year, but entering into a new decade. This decade is going to have lots of different things. There may be challenges, there's going to be blessings, but don't stop just because you start to see what appears to be something that you cannot climb. Don't stop because you start to see something that seems impassable or impossible, but continue to press on. Amen. At 16, I could remember our church group, our men's group of the church, we went on a hike. We went out to Yosemite National Park. It is a beautiful place, and there are many different mountain ranges that you can climb, many different mountains that are there. And we get out there, and again, like I said, I was about 16, 17, and I thought this is going to be great. This is going to be a piece of cake. I'm going with a bunch of what I considered old-timers, so I'll be able to really even shine, look good right here. And so we get out there, and we're at the base, we pull, we park, we take a little trolley, takes us to where we're going, and we begin to make that hike. And I could remember remember I was walking ahead of all of them. I was good. It's like, are you guys going to keep up? You know, you kind of copy thinking this is going to be a piece of cake. And I'm way up there saying, hurry up, you guys. You know, it's going to get dark before you catch up. And for the first mile, it was okay. But the second mile, it started getting a little bit slower. By the third mile, they were now ahead of me. It was by the fourth mile, I was crawling up. There are times I have to stop, catch my breath. You guys, hey, just keep going. I'll be right there. Just tied my shoe, and I was not prepared for that hike. I can remember that I didn't have enough water. I thought that I did, but I just continued to drink it, and I didn't have enough snacks, but I did everything that I could to just try to keep climbing. I told you there were times where I would crawl up the mountain. It was very steep, and I just kept going, and I felt like I was sliding down more than I was going, but kept going, and finally, after hours and hours, and what seemed like days really, but was only hours, finally made it to the top. And I can remember when I got to the top, the view that I was able to see, the experience that I was able to look back on and to say it was absolutely worth it. Every struggle, every heartache, every slip, every fall, every time I climb, every time I run out of breath, every time I struggled and just didn't know if it was going to continue to be worth it. But when I got to the top, I could remember then at that point, they had a barbecue thing set up there. We were there. I was able to enjoy the fruits of their labor because they got their way before I did. But I can remember getting up there and then looking back down, and even the others that were way down there, and it's just like, just keep going, just keep going. Because it was all worth it. When you get to the top of the mountain, you don't even think back about the struggles and the heartaches. You don't even look at those as inconvenient pains. You just look at that as part of the process. But it was all worth it. Somebody said amen. 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 So our original passage of study, we take a look. The Philistines are on one side of this valley. They're on a mountain. And the Israelites, we find themselves on the other side of the valley on another mountain in 1 Samuel 17:3. And here they were going through this. And here on this mountain on the side of Israel stood this small, insignificant little shepherd boy. He had no idea, but up to this point, he really was only just a shepherd boy. I mean, sure, he had been anointed and other things, but he was only a small, insignificant little shepherd boy that happened to come up to this mountain and look at his brothers and hear this giant down there screaming and defying the God of Israel. He had no idea, but his life from this day on was about to change. It was on top of the mountain that his destiny began to be fulfilled. No longer was this little shepherd boy referred to as just a small little shepherd boy, but it was this little shepherd boy, David, that when he came back from battle, they started singing songs. Saul has killed his thousands, but David has killed his 10,000s. I want everybody to understand something. There is a difference between being raised for something and being born for something. You see, David was raised to be a shepherd, but he was born to be a king. Don't stop and settle for what it is that you were been raised to be, or what you've been accustomed to be, or what you've been told all you're gonna be, but just know that you have been born for something so much more. And don't stop or settle at the bottom of the mountain, but continue to go through whatever it is that you've got to go through to get to that top, because it is absolutely worth it. Somebody said amen. 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 God is not wanting us to stop at the mountain, but to climb to the top of the mountain. David and Saul, there was a difference. You see, Saul, he didn't have to fight for anything, really. I mean, he was crowned, he was, named the king, and it was given to him. He didn't have to fight for all of these things, everything that he got in life. But David had to fight for absolutely everything in his life. He had to fight to protect the sheep. You would think that's an easy job. You think all he's got to just do is watch these sheep. But he had to take on a bear. He had to take on a lion. Saul didn't have to fight for anything. And at the end, he lost everything. David had to fight for everything. And at the end, when the last ends, we see that the throne was to never lose or leave his lineage ever. Amen. So don't get discouraged if you've got to go through a fight. Don't get discouraged if you've got to go through a tussle. Don't be discouraged if you wonder, why are you going through something, but brother so-and-so isn't, or sister so-and-so isn't. Just know that, sometimes you've got to fight for those things, but those things are so much worth it. And when you get it and you hold on to it, you cherish it the more. Somebody said amen. 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 It was on the mountaintop that Jesus took Peter, James, and John. what is called Mount of Transfiguration. He took these 3 disciples and said, I want to reveal myself to you in a way that nobody else has ever experienced anything before. You guys have been with me through struggles. You've been with me as people have mocked me. You've been with me as people have followed me. But I want to take you a little bit deeper. Are you up to the climb? Are you up to the hike? And Peter, James, and John said, absolutely. So they began to make their way up to the top. And when they get to the top, it said that Jesus' face had shined like the sun. It was so bright. Elijah and Moses had stepped there into the physical realm. It says, and were talking with Jesus. The disciples were absolutely petrified. I mean, they had never, ever in all of their life had experienced anything like this or seen anything like this. And Peter was there. You know, he's one of those nervous talkers. You know, he just can't sit quietly. And so he's like, hey, you know, Lord, it's good that we're here. Do you want us to build a tabernacle, build a temple, build something for each of you guys? We can do it. And as he turns around, then those 2, Elijah and Moses, are gone, and it is just Jesus that is there. But the disciples' mind was absolutely blown on top of that mountain when Jesus began to reveal himself. Again, the other 9 disciples were not a part of it. They didn't see it. In fact, Jesus had even told those 3, don't even say anything until after I've died and I've risen back from the dead. Then you can start telling everybody what it is that you had witnessed up here. So don't stop at the bottom of the mountain. Don't stop. Why? Because I'm sure there's so many others that will stop there. It seems like all the rest are stopping there. They're taking a break. It's easy. They're comfortable. But it is at the top of that mountain that you will begin to see things, experience things that nobody else has because they were just too tired, or they gave up, or they didn't want to participate or do it. And it is on top of that mountain that God's got something for you. Somebody say amen. 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 In 1519, there was a Spanish conquistador. His name was Hernan Cortez, and he is famous for what it is that he had done. As I mentioned, he was a conquistador. He was a Spanish explorer, and he landed on the seashore, along the shores of Mexico, in what is now known as Veracruz. And when he got there, he had made up his mind, his goal. He had one goal, that was to conquer the Aztec Empire, to take all of their gold, to send it back to Spain. So he's there in Mexico, there at the city, now, you know, the name that he named Veracruz. And once he gets there, he understands that this battle, what he is about to face, what he is about to go through, there were mountains. It's somewhat of a mountainous region. There are many different mountains there in Veracruz, and there are different forests. There's a lot of different struggles that were lying ahead for him and all of his men. But he understood that there was no turning back. He just had to make sure that the men also understood that whatever mountain it was that we were going to face, we're going to be getting to the top of that mountain. We're going to be going down that mountain. We're going to be going to the top of the other mountain. We're going to keep going. Why? Because there is a goal in mind, and we're going to press forward. So he told his generals, he ordered them, he said, here's what we're going to do. He had all of the men out of the ships, and he said, I want you to burn the ships. And just like that, the generals went and they burned all of the ships. And what that meant is that we are either going to make it or we are going to die trying to make it. But there is no going back. No matter what it is that you have gone through, no matter what it is that you're about to hit, whatever wall, it doesn't matter. You're going to have to find a way either through it or over it. But there is no returning back to the pit or to the vomit or to the place where we went that is easy, that is comfortable, that is known. But we're going to keep going with our goal in mind. And sure enough, in 2 years, they conquered the entire Aztec Empire because they had made up their mind that there was no going back. There is a group, as I get ready to wrap up and end, there is a group called For King and Country, and they have a tour called Burning Ship Tour. And they said what had started this song, what had helped bring this to pass, is Luke, one of the main singers. His wife Courtney was pregnant with their second child. They were getting ready to go and perform on tour, perform a concert there in Austin, Texas. And as they're getting ready to go, the brothers and the band, they're getting ready to go out. Luke gets a call from his wife Courtney and says, I need you to come home now. He makes his way home. He finds his wife. She's there. She's shaking and she's crying. And she's talking to him. She says, just so you know, I'm addicted to these pills. I can't stop. I'm absolutely addicted to these pills. It was some anti-nausea pills, and when she was pregnant with the second one, she kept getting nauseous, and so the doctor prescribed her some of these pills. For 6 weeks it worked good, and then she came back, she said it's not working, so they do like they do at these doctors, and they gave her double the dose, and it started working. But then she found herself where she couldn't stop taking them. She found herself absolutely addicted. It began to control her. She needed to take them, and even that day after he got there, she said, well, how about we just start tomorrow? Let me maybe just take one today. And we can start this tomorrow. Why do this? She ended up having to go. They checked her into a mental facility that was there in Texas. And for 2 weeks, she began to go through all of this. And they were just praying and all of these things. And after 2 weeks, she finally got delivered from that addiction. She struggled with it so hard. And the song came about because one day as she went to the cabinet, she had opened up a bottle of pills, and she began to open it up, and she says, I've got to do this. And Luke is there. He said, well, what are you doing? She says, I've got to do this. Why? Because this is the ultimate sign that there is no going back. And she began to pour those pills down to the toilet and began to flush them. This was their burning the ships moment. This is what had sparked their song in the tour that they're even doing now. So I don't know what it is that you are facing. I don't know what it is that you are going through. I don't know what it is that you are going to face in 2020. But whatever it is, you've got to burn those ships. Whatever it is, you've got to put it behind you and say, I'm going forward. There is no returning. There is no going back. There is no slowing down. But you have bought the truth. You've bought your ticket, and you're not going to settle. You're not going to slow down. You're not going to stop. But you've come too far. You've got too much invested. You've got too much time in this. You've got too much Bible in this. You've got too much prayer in this. You've got too much fasting in this to simply toss it aside and say, I am now going to just go back because this, I've finally come to the point where this is too hard. But no, you've got too much invested in this to lose your time, to slow down, or to return back to where it is that you've been. Somebody said amen. 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 With that said, the musicians could begin to make their way, and we're going to begin to transition to the next portion of service. But if we could just take a moment right now and just begin to let the Lord know that we love Him. God, thank you. Thank you, dear God, for reminding us of your strength. Thank you for reminding us, dear God, that it is He that endureth, dear God, to the end. That you are always faithful, that you will never leave us nor forsake us. It doesn't matter where it is that we are in our walk with you, dear God, but you are always there to hold us, to guide us, to protect us, to lead us, dear God. And we come before you right now thanking you. In this last service, dear God, this last Sunday morning service of 2019, we are thankful for your word. We are thankful for your reminder. We are thankful, dear God, for your mercy. We are thankful, dear God, for all that it is that you continue to do to bless us, dear God, to step in and to provide enough strength to just make it another day, to be able to just crawl a little bit more, to be able to just walk a little bit more. We are so thankful, dear God, for allowing us to be here in your house yet again, where we can hear your voice as you continue to speak to us. We surrender ourselves to you, dear God, asking, let your will be done. Give us strength, dear God. Give us peace. Give us hope, dear God. Dear God, stir our minds and our hearts so deeply. Take us further in 2020 than we've ever been. Take us deeper in your presence than we've ever gone. We give everything to you today. We worship and magnify your glorious, powerful, and holy name of Jesus. Everybody said amen. 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 Amen.